The night was supposed to be a town hall. Instead, it felt like a prize fight. Phoenix, Arizona, an auditorium packed wall to wall. Cameras rolling, thousands more tuned in from home. The moderators tried to look calm, but everyone knew what was coming. Donald Trump and Barack Obama on the same stage. Live, unfiltered, and unrestrained. The tension wasn't in if sparks would fly. But when Trump sat forward in his chair, red tie singed tight, the restless energy of a boxer before the bell, Obama, in contrast, sat tall and still, hands folded, gaze steady. Patience radiating from him like a shield. The moderator cleared his throat. "Mr. Trump, the first question goes to you." That was all the invitation Trump needed. He smirked, squinted at Obama, and launched in. "We've heard a lot from Barack over the years," Trump said, voice dripping with derision. "Beautiful speeches, great words, very dramatic pauses. But at the end of the day, years of nothing, no results." The crowd tittered, half in laughter, half in unease. Trump went further, raising his hands theatrically, mimicking Obama's cadence. "Let me be clear," he said in an exaggerated drawl, tilting his head in parody. His supporters laughed louder, clapping, shouting encouragement. Obama didn't move. No smirk, no frown. Just silence that stretched and thickened until the laughter began to sound nervous. The moderator cut in. "President Obama, would you like to respond?" Still, Obama didn't speak. He simply adjusted his microphone, leaned forward slightly, and raised one eyebrow. The room went quiet. Trump grinned wider, mistaking the silence for victory. He doubled down. "Nobody can talk like him, folks." The voice, the pauses, perfect like an actor. But when it came time to do something, total failure. Weak borders, bad deals, chaos overseas. Everyone knows it. He hunched his shoulders, pursed his lips, and mocked Obama's slow, careful delivery again. "Let me be clear." The crowd roared, at least half of it. The other half sat frozen, arms crossed, waiting. The moderator tried again. "President Obama." Finally, Obama leaned in. His voice, when it came, was calm, measured, and devastatingly sharp. "Well," he began, pausing just long enough to hold the entire room, "Donald seems to forget a few things." The effect was electric. The audience leaned forward as one, the laughter fading into silence. Obama hadn't raised his voice, hadn't resorted to mockery. He didn't need to. His stillness, his timing, his deliberate tone carried more weight than any insult ever could. In that moment, the stage no longer belonged to Trump's theatrics. It belonged to Obama's quiet control, and as the crowd rose to its feet, a smirk slipped from Trump's face. The silence dragged just long enough to make people shift in their seats. Some of Trump's supporters laughed again. But it wasn't. The same bold laughter as before was thinner now, nervous, uncertain. Trump, sensing the pause, pressed harder. "Come on, Barack. Tell the people what you did. Tell them about all those amazing results. Because from where I'm sitting, you talked a lot, but nothing happened. 8 years wasted." Obama's lips curved it, a full smile. Just a flicker. But it was enough. The cameras caught it instantly, flashing that half grin onto the big screens above the stage. The audience saw it too, and the mood shifted. It wasn't arrogance. It wasn't smugness. It was a signal Trump had just walked straight into the trap. Obama reached for his microphone. Before speaking, he let the silence linger one more beat. A pause, perfectly placed. He was letting the room breathe, letting Trump's words echo just long enough so that when he finally answered, it would land twice as hard. Trump scoffed. "See? Nothing. He's got nothing." But by then, the room had already quieted. The laughter faded, the whispers stilled. Everyone knew something was coming. The silence itself had become a kind of thunder. Obama leaned in, his gaze sweeping the crowd. His voice, when it came, was steady. "Even, Donald," he said, "you have a talent for performance. Nobody's going to take that away from you." He paused, letting the words settle. Then, "But facts matter." A ripple of energy rolled through the audience. Even the moderators straightened in their seats. Obama turned to the crowd. "Not to Trump. When I took office in 2009, this country was losing 800,000 jobs a month. Families from Toledo to Stockton were terrified. Retirements vanished. Homes were lost. People were scared. He let the memory hang in the air. And Donald wants you to believe nothing happened during my presidency. Well, I think the millions of Americans who went back to work would disagree. Applause broke out first on the left, then spreading, until it filled the room. Trump leans toward his mic, trying to cut in. "Jobs came back because of me. Everybody knows it. I fixed it, not you." Obama didn't even glance at him. His voice stayed calm, deliberate. "And let's talk about healthcare. Donald calls it a disaster. But let me ask you, how many of you here have a child with asthma, a parent with diabetes, a pre-existing condition?" Hands rose across the auditorium. First a few, then dozens, then more. Obama nodded. Before the Affordable Care Act, those families could be denied coverage. They could lose everything. Today, millions sleep easier because of protections we put in place. That wasn't talk. That was action. The applause swelled again, louder, stronger, unstoppable. Trump barked over it. Premiums went through the roof, total disaster. Finally, Obama turned back to him. His head tilted slightly, his tone sharpened to a blade. "Donald, you talk about premiums. I talk about parents who can finally take their kids to the doctor without worrying they'll lose their home. That's the difference." The crowd erupted. The cameras caught a young mother holding her child, tears on her cheeks. Applauding through them, Trump shifted in his chair, his grin gone. He muttered, "Fake news," under his breath. But the microphones caught it, and the audience heard. Obama didn't flinch. He looked back to the people. Leadership isn't about mocking. It isn't about who can land the biggest punchline. It's about responsibility. It's about results. For the first time all night, Trump had no comeback. His mouth opened, then closed again. His fingers tapped nervously on the desk as the camera zoomed in on his face. The picture of a man rattled. Obama leaned back, hands folded, face calm. He had done what Trump couldn't, turned mockery into a mirror. The crowd felt it too. Applause swelled, then broke into chants of Obama. "Obama." The moderators tried to quiet the room, but the balance had shifted. Trump's one-liners no longer owned the stage. The energy belonged to Obama. When he leaned forward again, his voice was measured, deliberate. "Donald wants you to believe leadership is about insults and performance. But leadership is about what you leave behind when the show is over." The weight in his tone made the words sting sharper than a shout. Trump straightened, trying to grab momentum back. "What you left behind was a mess. Worst recovery in history. Weakest military. Everybody was laughing at us." Obama didn't flinch. "Let's talk about that mess. In 2008, we faced the worst crisis since the Great Depression, banks collapsing. Homes lost, businesses shuttered. We didn't just pull back from the edge, we grew. 75 straight months of job growth. By the time I left office, that wasn't luck. That was work." The room erupted. Trump jabbed a finger. "Fake numbers. The economy only got strong after me." Obama finally turned to him. "Donald, you can repeat something 100 times, but repetition doesn't make it true." The audience roared laughter, whistles, Applause. Trump waved his hands. The stock market hit records because of me, not you. Me. Obama's gaze sharpened, but his tone stayed cool. The market had already nearly doubled before you stepped into the White House. You didn't start the engine. You just slid into the driver's seat while it was already moving. Cheers thundered. Trump muttered, "Totally false, but..." His voice lacked swagger. Obama pressed on. "When I walked into office, America's image abroad was in tatters after a war built on lies. When I left, alliances were stronger. Coalitions were fighting ISIS. That wasn't talk. That was leadership." Trump leaned into the mic, flustered. "You left the world a mess. Everybody knows it." Obama tilted his head. "Sometimes cleaning up a mess doesn't look glamorous. But ask the soldiers we brought home. Ask the families who found jobs after the crash. Ask the kids who got health care. Tell them it didn't matter." The room answered with thunder. Trump tried to laugh, but the sound fell flat. Cameras caught him shifting, blinking, gripping his podium. Obama simply folded his hands, letting silence sting sharper than any punchline. The confrontation wasn't over. Trump wasn't about to surrender the spotlight. He raised his voice. "You left us nothing but debt, division, weakness." But the room didn't respond as before. The laughter was thin. Obama waited, then answered with steady calm. "Unemployment was 10% in 2009. When I left, it was 4.7. That's not nothing, that's nearly cutting it in half. When I came in, billions were being burned on a war with no mission. We ended combat. In Iraq, we brought soldiers home. That's not nothing, that's lives." The crowd exploded. Trump snapped back. "You weakened the military. I rebuilt it. You made us look soft." Obama's gaze locked on him. "I strengthened alliances. NATO, for example. You measure power by how many bombs you can drop. I measure it by how many wars you don't have to fight, because allies stand with you. That's real strength." The eruption this time shook the hall. Trump leaned back, muttering, gripping his glass, setting it down with a thud. Obama pressed on, tone calm, almost professorial. "Donald says he fixed everything. But the truth is, he inherited a recovery in motion. He inherited a military respected around the world. He inherited protections for families who could finally breathe when their kids got sick. Those weren't accidents, they were choices, hard choices." The moderator stayed silent. The audience was locked in. Trump's voice rising to a shout through his last punch. "Your economy was the weakest recovery ever. You left us weak." Obama paused, then delivered the line that made the auditorium erupt. "Donald, you keep talking about the economy like you built it," Obama said evenly. "But the truth is you were handed the keys to a car that was already moving. All you had to do was not crash it." Asterisk, the crowd exploded. Applause, cheers, whistles. A young veteran in uniform pumped his fist in the air. Asterisk, Trump's face flushed red. He threw his hands up. Ridiculous. Totally ridiculous. Asterisk, Obama didn't raise his voice. He simply waited for the noise to fade. The record speaks for itself. You can mock me, you can mimic my pauses, but facts don't change. History doesn't change. Asterisk, the roar returned, stronger, steadier. For the first time that night, Trump seemed smaller not in stature, but in presence. His trademark gestures, his one-liners, his bravado all felt muted against Obama's calm dismantling. Asterisk, Obama leaned back, hands folded. He wasn't chasing applause. He was letting authority speak for itself. Asterisk, but Trump wasn't the type to back down. The crowd knew he would come back swinging, louder and more desperate. The atmosphere crackled with anticipation. Minutes earlier, Trump's jabs had drawn easy laughs. Now, the cheers for Obama were sharper, more defiant. Asterisk, cameras caught. Trump stiffening, muttering under his breath, his jaw tight. He leaned toward his microphone, but each time he tried to speak, the audience drowned him out with applause. Asterisk, Obama stayed still, as if conducting the storm. Asterisk, the moderator raised a hand, his voice strained. Please, folks, let's bring the tea room under control. Even he seemed swept up in the spectacle. Asterisk's chants of Obama. Obama rumbled from the back before finally dying down. Asterisk, Trump pounced, voice raised. Look at this total setup. They love him because he gives speeches. That's all he's got. I built results. I built strength. Nobody respects this guy. Asterisk, the crowd erupted boos mixed with shouts. A man stood and yelled, "That's not true," while Trump supporters tried to cheer back. The room teetered on chaos. Asterisk, Obama leaned forward, voice steady. Donald, you can keep yelling, but yelling doesn't make you right. Laughter and applause crashed over the stage. Trump slammed his hand on the table, the microphone catching the thud. Cameras zoomed in on his reddening face. Asterisk, Obama didn't waver. Here's the thing about leadership. It's not about who talks the loudest. It's about who listens. It's about whether you can sit in a room with people who disagree with you and still find a way to move forward together. Asterisk, a woman shouted yes. The crowd answered with another swell of applause. Asterisk, Trump shook his head furiously. Forward together? Give me a break. You divided this country. Nobody trusted you. That's why I won, because you failed. You were weak, and people were tired of weakness. Asterisk, Obama paused, then leaned closer to the mic. You didn't win. Because people wanted more division. You won because people were hurting on. You gave them someone to blame. You didn't solve their problems. You gave them a target. Asterisk, the silence that followed was heavy. Even Trump supporters hesitated. Asterisk, Trump jabbed a finger. That's a lie. A total lie. Asterisk, Obama didn't flinch. He turned to the audience. When we faced the financial crisis, we didn't waste time pointing fingers. We rolled up our sleeves and worked. When we passed healthcare reform, we didn't ask who deserved care and who didn't. We made sure families could see a doctor. That's leadership. Applause rolled across the hall like a wave. Trump shot back. You gave us Obamacare. Everybody hates it. You weakened us. Asterisk, Obama shook his head slowly, almost pitying. Donald, sometimes the truth isn't what gets the loudest applause. Sometimes it's the thing you don't want to hear, but it's still the truth. The hall erupted again, louder than before. Trump leaned back, gripping his chair, face tight with frustration. The cameras caught the contrast. One man steady, calm. The other visibly straining. Asterisk, gentlemen, the moderator finally broke in, voice cracking. Let's move to the next question. Asterisk, but the audience barely listened. Everyone knew the exchange had already tipped the balance. Obama had seized control not with volume or spectacle, but composure. Asterisk, the moderator shuffled nervously. Let's turn to the topic of democracy and leadership. Asterisk, Obama leaned in, fingers steepled. Democracy isn't about who shouts the loudest. It's about whether leaders serve the people or themselves. He scanned the room. That's the real question tonight. Asterisk, Trump scoffed. Here we go, again more lecturing. People don't need a professor. They need results. Asterisk, Obama's eyes flicked toward him briefly, then back to the crowd. Results, we got millions insured who never had health care. We pulled the country out of the worst crisis since the 1930s. We restored respect abroad after years of reckless wars. That's not theory, Donald. Those are results. The audience roared again. Obama's tone softened, but cut deeper. But beyond policy, leadership is about respect. It's about how you treat people, rich or poor, those who agree with you and those who don't. It's about whether you tell the truth, even when it doesn't benefit you politically. The applause this time was quieter, but stronger. People nodded, whispered, leaned closer. Trump lunged at his mic. Respect. You didn't respect anybody. You spied on me. You divided this country. Obama tilted his head, a faint smile at his lips. Donald, respect isn't what you demand, it's what you give. And too often, you confuse being feared with being respected. They're not the same thing. The line detonated. The hall shook with cheers, whistles, clapping. Trump tried to shout over it, but his words were drowned in the roar.